Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here and welcome to Pokemon Sun and Moon. Yes, that is right, it is finally here. This is no longer the demo, this is the full game and the adventure begins today. In fact, I'm going to be uploading my entire playthrough of Pokemon Sun over on my second channel. You can find that link down below. I've currently, at the moment of making this video, recorded 10 episodes. That'll be going live over the next few days and I'm continuing to play through it and record all of that. So if you guys do want to see my journey, then definitely check out the second channel, subscribe if you're not already, and you can find that there. But on this channel, I'm going to be bringing you guys some more informative stuff to help you guys with the game. So I thought I would kick things off with 7 handy tips that'll help you guys getting started in the game. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you've got any questions, but let's get started. So first up at number 7, refresh can cure status effects. So when you're in a Pokemon battle, if you're inflicted with a status effect, be that poison or paralysis, something like that, those kind of status effects that typically persist after battle, you can actually make use of the new refresh system to get rid of these as opposed to having to use an item. See, when you complete a Pokemon battle, at the end, on the bottom screen, this tab will come down, it'll have a little brush in it as an icon, and you can press Y. If you do that, it'll go pink, and it basically means that as soon as the battle is finished and the kind of cutscene is ended, you will then be taken straight to Pokemon Refresh. This is effectively a minigame where you can interact with your Pokemon, you can stroke it, you can clean it, you can brush it, you can feed it berries, things like that. However, if you do this straight after a Pokemon battle and you've been inflicted with a status effect, then you can use the kind of tweezers with the sponge on the end to wipe it off, and you can cure your Pokemon there and then without having to use an item. Which is, fair to say, very, very handy. And on the topic of refresh, that leads me nicely on to point number 6. Make sure you spend time with your Pokemon, because if you go into refresh normally, you can access this from the menu, you go to your bottom of the screen, scroll to the second page and select refresh. From here, you can interact with any of the 6 Pokemon that you have in your team at that time. And if you look at them, you will see they have a little chart with things like affection, their fullness, if you fed them berries, stuff like that. But one of the interesting things is that if you spend a lot of time with your Pokemon and it gets to really like you, then this can actually have positive effects in battle. For example, if your Pokemon really likes you and it's got a high affection value, then it'll have a chance to dodge some attacks in battle. And also, at times, obviously it's a chance, it won't always happen, but there is a chance that if there is a move that would normally kill you in battle, if your Pokemon really likes you, then there's a chance that that move will instead drop your Pokemon to 1 HP. So instead of killing it, it is still in the battle with a fighting chance. So, goes without saying, spending time with your Pokemon, making them like you, is going to have positive effects in battle later on. Then moving over to number 5, map your Rhydon Pokemon. So if you guys played the demo, then you should be familiar with the fact that Rhydon is effectively your replacement for HMs. You now have a Ride Pager, and you get Pokemon added to this, and then when you want to do things like surf, fly, smash through rocks, things like that, you will have a particular Pokemon that you can ride, and you can then use this ability. They're really good for getting around fast. For example, if you use Taurus, you can sprint around, great for covering ground. And while you can simply access this by pressing Y and then selecting the Pokemon you want, what you can also do is map 4 of them to the directions on the D-pad. You'll see in the bottom screen on the Pokeride menu, to the left there is a little white button. That is not just a bullet point, that is actually a mapping button. If you click it, you'll see the 4 different D-pad directions. You can then click one of those and map it to that direction. That then means at the press of a button, you can jump on or off your Pokeride, and it is infinitely quicker than pressing Y and selecting it from there. Because once you've mapped all of them, you can then swap between any of them on the fly. Then moving over to number 4, check the bottom screen during your battles. The bottom screen is now loaded with information. During a battle, you can click on your Pokemon or the enemy Pokemon to find out its type, and also you can see what stat buffs or debuffs it has applied. If, for example, a Pokemon that you're fighting uses something to raise its own attack, if you then click on the Pokemon, you'll see a chart down below and it'll have an arrow that'll indicate it's raised that particular stat. This is especially useful in, say, longer battles. Maybe if you're going through, say, a trial battle, or you're working through, something online where you're going to be fighting people for an extended period of time, then you might rack up status effects, on a particular Pokemon. And sometimes you lose track of those. So if you look at your Pokemon or the enemy Pokemon, you can keep track of any of the buffs and debuffs they have. So if, for example, you've had a crapload of defense down stacked on you, then you might want to think twice if you know the enemy's powering up. Something like that. Also, if you fought a Pokemon before, and you then go to attack that same type of Pokemon, then your moves will also state whether they are super effective, not very effective or not effective at all, which means if you are fighting a Pokemon and say you are unfamiliar with its type, or maybe you're not well versed in all the Pokemon type matchups, then you can go into a battle with a Pokemon you fought before and know that if you pick this move, it will actually be effective, as opposed to, say, you know, having a shot in the dark, not necessarily knowing, and then wasting a turn. So for those people that are perhaps new to Pokemon, this is especially useful, but even to some of the veterans out there that perhaps might not remember off the top of their head absolutely everything, then still it is very useful to know, because also on the flip side, if you're trying to catch a Pokemon and perhaps you want to use a not very effective move specifically so you don't kill it, then again, it can be a massive aid to you. So in short, pay close attention to the bottom of the screen, there is a lot of information on there during battles, and you can click on most things to find out what you need. Then moving over to number 3, your haircut options. Now this is more of a cosmetic thing. True, it's not going to help you in your gameplay, but if you're anything like me and you do like to customize your character, and the customization options in Sun and Moon are actually pretty cool, then very early in the game, in fact in your very first city, Hau'oli City, you will find a barber's and a clothes shop. And while in the clothes shop you can preview the items, barbers you unfortunately cannot. So for those of you guys that do want to have a haircut but don't necessarily want to take the plunge, because it is quite expensive, especially early in game, it'll set you back 4,000 to 5,000 Pokemon dollars, depending on whether you have a cut or a cut and a colour. So for those of you guys that do want to see what options are available, then here's what you have. First up you have medium and layered, then you have medium and smooth, you then have a Caesar cut, followed by a modern quiff, and then finally you have braided cornrows. Note that the braided cornrows don't allow you to wear a hat with them, so you might want to consider that as well. Then in at number 2, using your favourites list. Well, it's not actually called favourites, it's called free space. But if you go into your bag, you will see that there is a heart icon, and this page is called free space. It has nothing in there by default, and that is because you can move select items over here. So you can see this as a favourites list. If there are items that you use a lot, things like potions, revives, perhaps a particular curing item, or maybe something like a Pokeball or a Premier Ball, anything like that, if there's something you make frequent use of, then you can move it to your free space to effectively create a favourites list, so that way if you're in battle and you want to access something really easily, then you can go to this list. Do bear in mind if you move it to the list, it takes it out of its usual place, but if you then want to go and put it back, you can simply remove it and return it to its pocket. And then finally, in at number 1, don't forget to download your free Munchlax from the Mystery Gift store. Before you load up the game, on the main menu, if you click on Mystery Gift and you then search for it via internet, you will then be presented with the Munchlax and the Snorlium Z. This is something you guys might have seen in the trailer, but Munchlax of course evolves into Snorlax, and once he evolves into Snorlax you can give him the Snorlium Z, which is a Z crystal that gives him access to a very special and unique Z move that he can't otherwise do. So this is really cool. It's a great Pokemon. Snorlax is always a great person to have in your team. So download it, and then all you need to do is head to the Pokemon Center, speak to the postman, and he will give it to you. And that's it. Well, there is one more tip. It's not technically speaking going to help you in any way, shape, or form. But if you want to spin around and do a little pirouette like this, then all you need to do is spin around in circles on the spot, not sprinting, just at walking pace, and after a while, your character will then spin round. Absolutely no use whatsoever, but I thought I'd include it anyway. So, there you have it. Those are some useful tips to help you guys get started. Hopefully you did find it helpful. If you did, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions. And again, make sure you check out the second channel because I'm going to be uploading loads of Pokemon stuff over there. My entire playthrough. So head over, let me know how you guys are getting on. But either way, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.